is Friday. That means it's time for Cast Guidance. I'm Tyr the DM, he, him, the world's okayest DM, and I will be your guide through this cacophony of clusterfuckery. Oh, wait, that's tomorrow night. Tonight, or today, is just questionable individuals giving questionable opinions. That's right. Hi, guys. I've been up since 3 a.m. thanks to work, so I'm tired. I have mushy brain. Before we get started, first, let me introduce my co-host, the one and only Raff the Mad.
Greetings, gamers. How you doing?
And just a couple of quick announcements. First off, we offer mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Secondly, we do not encourage the use of nicotine products such as cigarettes, or vaping. Just because we do it doesn't mean you should. We want you to have happy, healthy lives. Third, we are not associated in any way or affiliated with any TTRPG producers, manufacturers, or creators. We are simply individuals come together to give our questionable opinions on TTRPG products. We do got to give a shout out to some of our affiliates. First up, Red Panda Dice and Delights. They make some beautiful dice. Go check them out at redpandadice.com. Phineas Coffee. Look, today is one of those days where we all need a kick in the ass to get going. Phineas Coffee is top tier coffee for gamers. Go check it out at bit.ly/WOTD Phineas. That's bit.ly/WOTD PHINEAS. And finally, NordVPN. Secure, fast, the ability to see stuff on UK Netflix. There's just a vast number of reasons why you should check out NordVPN. And to do that, hit our website up. That's www.willofthedice.com. And click on their logo. That'll let them know that we sent you. Oh, and they also offer cloud storage, depending on what level you get.
That might be worth it. Greetings, gamers. For those of you listening at home, while he was giving his speech, I was up here doing the airline attendant version with my facial expressions of what he was saying. So go check out the VOD or check out on YouTube later on. It's rather hysterical. So I'm going to talk to you about some other things you should do online, like go to patreon.com. Go look up Will of the Dice. Go subscribe. Go listen to After the Rolls. Find out some of the chicanery we've been up to as we deal with Tyr's master plan of fuckery. Listen to the interviews with the cast members outside of what goes on inside Will of the Dice. And finally, you get access to the audio drama that is Tiami's out there. And you get access to polls. And you get access to everything before it hits YouTube and the Podbeans. So there's a lot there. It's worth subscribing to. Get out, subscribe, help support this channel because we really do appreciate it.
Also, for the next 17 individuals that sign up, you'll get a 55 millimeter D20 from Red Panda Dice and Delights. These things are chunky and they are sexy. Also, depending on what tier that you select, you'll be entered into our monthly merchandise drawing. Sarah Bauer just won one of our beautiful Will of the Dice mouse pads, and that'll be shipped today or tomorrow. We got those in finally. And I was also getting one of the D20 table shakers. Yeah, go check it out. Help support us. Wow, it is just a day. So today we're just chatting. So anytime you guys have any questions or comments, throw them in the chat. We'll be paying close attention to the chat.
Yes, we love our chat. It's very helpful. So yeah, we're both kind of wound up, whacked on coffee. And by the way, I can recommend the Phineas coffee. It's good coffee. I'm drinking some now because I don't like this daylight saving times change. It's horrible. Make it go away.
Hey, Welsh Turk says they can listen today. Welcome, Welsh Turk. How you doing?
Yay. Buddy? So we had a nominal topic to start with for today.
Okay.
And this is brought up to me by...
forgot.
That's okay. This is brought to me by two questions. I don't know if he's in the audience yet, but we were talking about things last night around the table, and he talked about how the general tech level changes what goes on in your society inside of your game world. This is definitely for those who build their worlds and homebrew them, like myself and Tyr. But he's talking about he very much would like to build a world that's based around the Bronze Age.
Ooh.
Very much where iron and steel are very, very rare and hard to find resources. So you're dealing with lighter metals, you're dealing with a different field, you're dealing with things that don't quite exist. As he pointed out, most high fantasy is based upon that time period. He called it late conquest period, basically just before they start bringing in gunpowder and the industrial age. So you have access to your steels, your metals, and some serious technological advantages and scientific thought processes. So, changing the level of your society, what they have access to technology wise, what they've thought of, kind of changes the feel of everything.
It does. Ruinous Kesha is what I call fantasy punk.
Mm-hmm.
There are some sci-fi elements, but done in a high magic way, such as the weapon that Lady Bianca had that Glandamir wanted to turn on Ruinous Kesha. It was basically a giant laser system that could destroy continents, but it worked by magic. It had a series of magic mirrors that a spell was a specific spell created for this weapon was cast into a ring of 6 stones. The spell then was supercharged by Hytherium, bounced off a series of magic mirrors that amplified it, and hit its target and could destroy a continent if you put enough focus and energy into it. The airships and stuff, those are, fantasy punk, as I call it. They run off magic crystals and stuff. But interesting enough, Ruinous Kesha actually made it to the modern age of urban fantasy once upon a time.
Would that be the city of Plinth?
One of the cities, yes.
Mm-hmm.
When go ahead.
And I guess and that that's part of your history, and that adds for a lot of flavor text behind that, because I suspect if we went delving through Ruinous Kesha, we'd be able to find a couple of those lost modern cities, abandoned or whatever.
Yes.
Ooh.
The spoiler alert, the House Talinor of the City of Bones, the Underdark city of the Drow, their entire house is a giant mall.
You got to use them for something.
There was a time when it was urban fantasy, and then came the time of Malekush's the Scourge and the apocalyptic event where those that came before left to go travel the stars, and the world was sent basically back to the Stone Age and has been making its progression.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I like that timeline, the feel that it gives you access to a wide variety of things. Fantasy books. I think the world my built, it's a little more standard as fantasy, but it runs everything from your base level barbarism, where you got fur huts and sticks and stone spears, all the way up to the high fantasy age, the high medieval age, where you got steels and strong armor and castles and whatnot. But one society in particular is very high on the magic, and they use a lot of magic in their processes, and that changes the nature of how they do things. As he pointed out, I've got a cleric that can create water. What does that do to a desert society? I'm a farmer. I need water for my crops. Hey, I'll toss some money in your coffers if you come over and pray on my field for a few minutes. Magic becomes the replacement for some of that technology and allows you to do things in a medieval society that you wouldn't be able to do without it. That you would require a high level of scientific research and a modern society to do. And being able to lay some of that flavor into your world makes it kind of fun. And then, of course, you give your players access to that, and then they do silly things like, here, let's recreate the flood. What? Because players never, ever exploit anything.
No.
That's a question for you, Tyr. As you're building stuff, how much do you worry about exploits?
I don't.
Okay.
If it gets exploited, it's not like I never create a scenario. Well, I try not to create a scenario where an exploit could be like Pantheon changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, I take it back. I guess I do, because I asked myself, if I put this into the world, is it going to fuck Runith Kesha, or is it just going to fuck me? If it's just going to fuck me, I'm okay with it, because, I'm used to my players monkey wrenching me. Yeah. If it's going to fuck Runith Kesha, then I go back and reevaluate. Drunken Baggard. Let's use giant eagles to drop barrels of oil. Throw them onto the battlefield below while casting fireball. I like this.
Yeah, and that's where you start to look at, oh wow, that you have a series change the way to the nature of warfare at that point. With high levels of magic around. Large armies become a huge problem.
There's a caveat to this. You have to have halfling bards playing Paint It Black as you go flying across to drop the barrels of oil. If you don't know what Paint It Black is, go to YouTube and look up Rolling Stones Paint It Black.
Yep. Yes. If you don't understand the reference, you're too young. But yes, but think about that. Having the access to that alone changes the nature of how they're going to fight between nations. Do I want to risk sending 1,000 people across the battlefield just to watch them get wiped out by a giant eagle with a barrel of oil and a fireball? Or do I bring my own fireballs? If you start thinking about some of the high level magic, what type of magic does a level 20 wizard have?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, but they got some powerful
meteorite.
Shit.
That's a spell that has
Meteor
a range.
Storm.
Meteor Storm, yeah. Range of 1 mile. For 1 mile, I can drop 20 d6 worth of damage on something. Correction, 4 something. That has the nature, change the landscape. So
I'm looking it up now.
Mm-hmm. It's
20d6 bludgeoning damage. Ow.
And then another 20d6, so I say force damage with it as well.
Fire
damage, yeah.
So 40d6 damage. Holy shit.
Yes. And he could drop 4 of them, if I remember correctly from the spell off the top of my head. It is a level 9 spell, but it is the ultimate fireball. The ultimate this is the equivalent of a wizard nuke.
That is fuck these people right here.
And those people over there as well. Yeah, and so how many level 20 wizards you got running around, Tyr?
Well, there's the circle in Glandomir has 18. The Council of Mages in Glandomir, and that's just in Glandomir. And then you've got the Concord of Arcane in Iron Sage, that they're about 20-25 strong. You got the Arcane Knights in Taladegarios that are like 100 strong. So I mean, yeah.
So if you start getting the wizards going to war with each other, what's that do to your world?
It destroys it. Which may or may not be what y'all will be looking at in Sins of Blood, Act 2, Requiem of a Dream.
There was a dream once. We lost it somewhere. It became a nightmare. Mm-hmm. But, your next character needs to be a wizard? No. But wizard, sorcerer, anything with high magic access like that can seriously mess things up. But that makes for an interesting world play, though. Think about that. Glandamir and Iron Sage are guaranteed to wipe each other out if they go to war with each other on the wizard level.
Yeah,
correct?
mutually assured destruction.
So you've basically built a Cold War style standoff where they spend time hiring groups of adventurers to go fuck with each other at a lower level to try and gain an advantage.
So look at it this way. Rookspire was a kingdom that bordered Iron Sage and Glandamir.
Mm-hmm.
It was north of Glandamir and to the east of Iron Sage. It wasn't as big as Glandamir or Iron Sage, but it was a big kingdom. Glandamir devoured it, partially because of the circle of mages, and just the outright brutality to use things like meteor swarm or meteor hammer or things like that.
Yeah. Just the FU spell.
Yeah.
Teleport without error. Here you go. I don't like your king. I've been to your throne room before. You adventurers, I got a job for you. Kill this man. I give you lots of gold. Stand right here, and you just dropped a strike team into the throne room of your enemy.
Pretty much.
Ooh. But what's the counter? There's a count. I think I don't know if 5th Ed have a counter or not.
No, in Ruinous Kesha, there's a counter. There's wards to keep from being able to teleport into places.
Yep.
So, places like Iron Sage and Glandamir, Taladegarios, Eastern Taladegarios, Western Taladegarios, places like that have the ability to stop someone from just arbitrarily teleporting into their throne room and massacring their royals. But when you look at places like, okay, take Sharkandor, the continent of Sharkandor. Mm-hmm. It's mostly rural, agricultural. There's some artistic hippie communes there, for lack of a better word. They don't have anything like that. The city of Frenia is now under control of the Minotaur Kingdom, but it doesn't have anything to keep somebody from teleporting in.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Cape Hope, which is a giant metropolis, which is the port of call between Taladegarios, Verndathar, Sharkandor, and Yggdrasil. It is the major port. All of your ship traffic goes through there. So you could have a group of mages or use a teleportarium, which is technology left over from the ones that came before, and teleport a mass group of soldiers into Cape Hope, take siege. You now control the merchant ways. So there's a lot. Hi, 2 questions. Welcome. There's a lot there, that, and these are questions that I'm constantly asking myself and constantly rolling dice about during the week between our sessions.
Mm-hmm. What is the world doing while the players are off doing something silly in the corner?
Pretty much.
Or getting distracted with the Silver Spires.
Which is huge. You were not there for after the roll, so you wasn't there for the big reveal that'll be revealed in gameplay. But the Silver Spires has only been gone for 30 years. When Llewellyn Rose used the stone to amplify their magic to move the continent of the Silver Spires into the Astral Sea, they laid a web over Ruinous Kesha that Silver Spires would be forgotten and become a myth. It was a children's story. Well, now that it's back, that web has been broken. So what kind of impact is that going to have?
Mm-hmm. You now have yet another continent appearing in your world that wasn't there before. Or, well, in recent memory.
Yeah, that was in reaction to the Sealy and Unseelie courts going to war and Brika being taken. Llewellyn Rose knew that well, I mean, I can tell about it. It's not much of a spoiler because the parts have all been laid out in game. It's just putting the pieces together. Every year there's an eclipse. During the eclipse, there is called the Rings of Aurora, and at this time, magic is at its height. It's also at a time where certain spells can only be used, like the spell that of transference, where you can literally take somebody's magic from them.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Drow took Brika, Llewellyn Rose knew that if they performed that ceremony on Brika, they could kill her and have the power to control the Silver Spires. That's the only thing that saved her life, was that when they eventually accosted her and took her magic after Brika had escaped, they were able to successfully infiltrate the Silver Spires, kill King Amadon, and capture Llewellyn Rose, take her magic. But she had to stay alive because the Silver Spires is tied directly to her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they had to keep her alive. They couldn't let her die. So they kept her alive in the dungeon of iron. But their original plan was just to assassinate her, transfer Brika's power, and use that to take the throne and control the Silver Spires. Now, why they wanted to control the Silver Spires, I can't tell you.
That's the next question. That's what came to my mind. So why do people want that? But that's a different problem. You sparked a tangent in my thought brain because I run on random tangents. You're talking a summoning ritual or a ritual that's done on the eclipse day once a year.
Yes.
It jumps me back to the thought process to a different game system entirely. One where the magic is very ritualistic, shamanistic. I'm thinking very much like Conan and the Age of Hybarium. That level of, we're not tossing magic missiles, we're stealing souls and we're modifying ourselves. That's a very different type of magic. It gives you a very different feel to your world. And that can be fun too. It almost feels like Scorched Earth. Oh crap. No, the D&D world.
Dark Sun.
Dark Sun, yes. It has a very different feel to the campaign.
That's a very interesting take on it. Lolly says that they think that it has something to do with the fairies of Runeth Kesha, because they are beings of magic, meaning they cannot survive without their magic. And be it they're basically pure magic, it's a different and powerful in a different way. That is true, but that's not why they want the Silver Spires. That's not why anybody wants the Silver Spires, because trust me, other people want the Silver Spires.
Well, yeah, do you know how much silver is worth these days? I've got spires of silver. I could buy a lot with that. I could buy a ship. Well, yeah, there's a resource access. Yeah, you have, like Dark Sun. That's a very resource poor world.
Yes, it is.
So metals mean a lot more to them than they do in a world that's resource rich. And again, that changes the flavor and the nature of your campaign. A simple sword, iron sword beats a lot.
Yeah.
In Dark Sun.
Yeah, in a world where they use bone and stuff as weapons, having something metal.
Mm-hmm. And that begs the question on the game design side: how do you balance that out? Where everything's doing bone and wood, so you're not talking high levels of damage. So you got a grittier world that's a little harder to survive in. But how do you balance out so it's not just I'm going to die as soon as I step outside the door because creatures?
I think that in order to balance it out, you have to go back to the days of the nomadic tribes that hunted like woolly mammoth and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They were using stone and bone weapons. It is sure I'm not going to come through and cut through your armor with a bone axe, but you don't have metal. You're wearing hide.
True.
So my axe will kill this hippo. It'll kill you, So I think that that's the balance because you have bone weapons, you have bone armor because you're not wearing chainmail because, I mean, if you are, you're going to be fucking unstoppable, you know.
Yeah, true. Two questions, brings up the decanter of endless water as a way to start a war, especially in arid desert region. Imagine an army being able to just conjure large quantities of water and not need to tax the local groundwater. Yes, two questions is also a man about logistics. He understands that an army needs to be fed and watered along the way, which a lot of fantasy systems, a lot of fantasy worlds don't touch. If you actually look at historical precedents, when an invading army comes in to lay siege, it's like a horde of locusts. There's no resource, there's no food, no water, nothing clean left for miles around that army because they're scavenging and hoarding along the way.
Well, see, and here's another thing. So inside of Runeth Kesha in Shark Endor, there is the kingdom of Mountain Crest that contains the Emerald Forest where the Great Falls are, the birthplace of magic. When it was attacked, this was ran in story, this was ran in game. The heroes took on a very anti-hero approach and was like poisoning well water, burning crops, things of that nature, because they knew the army had to be able to survive. Well, if you've got something like a decanter of endless water, that strategy no longer works.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and the Cantler Endless Water is not that big a magic item or powerful one, per se.
It's all in how you use it.
Yep.
I mean, if you go back to Drunken Baggart talking about using giant eagles to drop barrels of oil and then casting fireball, that's not a very high tech, that's just like the Romans used to do with the pitch over the side of the walls. But to think about the amount of damage that you could do, being able to have the eagles to be able to spread that shit on a larger area in a battlefield and then set it on fire, the amount of chaos.
Lolly says, even with that, you still have to secure food. Armies need lots of food as well. There is a cupboard of endless food. Why? Because our party has it in Pathfinder, and we abuse the really piss out of it. We feed in the entire army of people every night. They just walk over the food. It has a password. The password is Noms. Noms steak, and you get steak. It delivers an infinite amount of varieties of bacon, because we've tried, and cheesecake, because cheesecake bribes everybody. But yes, our DM, we stole it, and he didn't think we were going to run off with it because he just kind of stuck it in the corner as like flavoring for a room that a bad guy was in. Well, we looted everything in that room from the bad guy, including the door. We left the house carrying the door, and we grabbed the cupboard. And it's been a staple of our campaign since, because that's how we feed our people. That's right. Nom's popcorn. Nom's popcorn gets used a lot, especially when drama's about to go down. But yeah, there are magic items for food. Here, let's play food.
Well, it's just like in the Ever Cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it in Scions of Oblivion.
Yep.
They found it, and you've seen it now in Bloodlines as it was passed on to Winter. That is Minotaur magic technology used to feed their armies. One Ever Cauldron can feed what they call a pride or a battalion, 150 troops.
Mm-hmm.
One Ever Cauldron can feed 150 troops endlessly. And they cost 3 gold pieces to make.
There should never, ever be starvation in your world, ever.
But yet there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is.
3 gold pieces to feed an army. There was a wizard by the name of Char that created a spell that could infuse a cauldron to where you set it up, the fire automatically lights. You tell it what you want, and it fills. And while it's filled, it's unending. But it only lasts for a certain amount of time, and you get 2 uses of it per day. He gave this magic to the Minotaur kingdom for safekeeping. The Minotaurs turned around and mass produced 3 gold pieces for the type of cauldron that you need, and mass produced this spell. They're the only ones that have it. It's not something that is, no one's figured out how to reverse engineer it yet or not. People have tried. But yeah, the 3 gold pieces to feed a pride of Minotaur. And that's one of the reasons that the Taldegarrios army is so fucking brutal.
Yeah, well, and that's how magic affects your armies and magic affects your world. The Taldegarrios army is feared because of the fact they got the Minotaurs, and that's one of them. They could show up anywhere, anyway, and have an army there ready to go.
Exactly. 2 questions. Had they taken this and used it to put it out into the world where it was purchasable, it was a commodity, the economy would have been screwed. It would have destroyed everything. The whole area of Runeth Kesha would have turned into poverty-stricken third world, everyone starving, because eventually they would run out of cauldrons. The economy would just collapse. They said, nope, strictly for our military. And the only reason that the party has one is because when they came upon a Minotaur encampment, when I rolled, the Minotaur army had one of the cauldrons with them. And they chose to take it.
Mm-hmm. They ran off with it. Well, yeah. Think about this, though. Ring of water breathing. Great if you're in the ocean, but think about this. I could sneak into your kingdom by swimming up the river because I never have to come up to surface.
Exactly.
Here, swim a whole army up the river, or a strike force of 20 guys to go cause chaos inside your kingdom, and no one thinks about. Wait a second, there's a river or water walking. Ring of water walking is some of the biggest bane I've ever had.
During the early days of Runeth Kesha, and they carried over into the Sword of Hope, but they were all but annihilated in Sword of Hope. There was a clan of druids that were guerrilla warfare tacticians. They were all female, 150 strong, and they would do things like use their wild shape to be able to poison grain stores and stuff like that. Like, it was all guerrilla warfare.
Cool. Now that's 2 questions. Or stealth dredge the river over time and suddenly sail a battleship ship of the line up the river. Surprise!
That would be something.
That would be. No, actually, no stelter. Just dredge the river. Hi, we need to bring large ships upriver a ways. All right, here's 50 guys with shovels and rings of water breathing. Start digging. The massive projects of the Romans don't seem so massive after a while. If you start thinking about, okay, we have magic to negate one of the bad environmental conditions that allow us to get away with doing this. That changes the entire nature of your society in some ways. Just think about that. Okay, I can breathe underwater now in an agrarian society up water. That makes digging trenches and rivers and aquifers so much easier. Ooh. I'm thinking, what would the barbarians do with something like that? Would you have? All right, I gotta go back to writing again. Yeah, Adatia's got a point. A moat is no longer the near equivalent to a wall.
Nope.
With
Rings
flying,
of water walking, rings of water breathing, rings of flight. Your moat becomes just a minor inconvenience.
Yep. A place to dump the bodies. And to store your moat monster. So every moat needs a monster. Ooh, but I had a thought, random thought. Anti-magic barbarians. A barbarian cult kingdom that eschews magic entirely because it's against the natural order.
That would be cool.
And then they're pushing across the world to try and shut off all magic. But how would they be a threat?
Well, if they're anything, so I'm not sure if yeah, you've listened to the podcast, the previous seasons.
Yep.
You're familiar with Vanishers.
Yes.
For those not familiar, Vanishers are mage hunters. They naturally emit a 5-foot aura of anti-magic and can transfer that aura to different places and got a lot of cool abilities and stuff. They're born with that. It's a natural ability that they're born with. And in places like Iron Sage, when one is born and discovered, they're taken and brought into the Vanishers. But if you're in some place like Sharkhandor, where you have your nomadic tribes and stuff in the Northlands, you could have a nomadic tribe that is nothing but anti-magic people that exude that anti-magic field.
Ooh, that could be fun. I guess part of me wants to set up the overwhelming horde of people versus the smaller population of magic wielders, but having the anti-magic field, how much would that could really change the nature though? If you think about it, that meteor swarm you just dropped on their head suddenly just got canceled.
Yeah. Or your powerful druids that are using nature's fury or whatever suddenly had a barbarian step up in their range, and now none of their magic's working. Even with your special forces units with their magic armor and their magic weapons, in order to step into combat, into melee range, they're stepping into that 5-foot field of anti-magic, which means their weapons and armor are just plain weapons and armor.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. That changes a lot. Two questions. It's like anti-air assets against air power. You got a position where they make the most impact and make sure they aren't taken out ahead of time.
Yeah.
And that's depending how rare they are. And that's the key in that sense. How rare are they? And that, as a DM, as a world builder, is how rare is some of this access to some of this stuff going to be, because they could seriously change the entire nature of your world.
1 in every 20 person is born with the ability to create an anti-magic field. 1 in every 100 is discovered and sent to the Vanishers.
That's an interesting fact there, Tyr. 1 in 20 is not that small.
Nope. And only 1 in 100 is ever found out. And here's the thing, though. Only the big kingdoms like Iron Sage look for them. And they look for them within their borders. Iron Sage doesn't send people out to, like, Wells Deep to see if there's any quote-unquote Vanishers or Vanisher potentials there. Because of, they'd be basically going out and kidnapping people.
Mm-hmm.
But, so there might be places where these anti-magic people have gathered, just like the Dragonborn. In the name of the city I can't remember right now.
Oh. Yeah.
I hope it's on your character sheet because I need it.
Yes, it should be. I have to look at my character sheet. That's a statistic. That has some serious ramifications, though, for your world if you think about it. If people start tapping into that, oh yeah, your fireball no longer affects me. 1 in 20? In theory, some of your characters should have that ability.
I roll at the beginning of each campaign to see if someone is going to have the ability.
Interesting. So for in your world, it's not a spontaneously manifested.
Right. It's from birth.
It's from birth, but it's not. Oh, so they would know automatically whether they had it or not.
Yes.
Ooh. Huh. As I think through the ramifications of that thought process. Okay, so that means 1 in 20. Here, every 20th guy in your military formation has an anti-magic field around him.
Something like that.
But it's only a 5-foot range. He'll survive the fireball.
Yeah. Trinity Falls. That's where it starts from.
Yep.
I couldn't remember it for the life of me. And it's purposefully not on any maps. So.
Mm-hmm. Huh. What's that do to the nature of Iron Sage versus Glandomir? Because Iron Sage openly has Vanishers. Everyone knows about the Vanishers. They exist, and they don't like them. Because they're seriously a disturbing bunch of people.
Well, that's one of the reasons that you had the free cities. Is people could escape to the free cities and not worry about being discovered and having Iron Sage or Glandomir want to pluck them up. But now Glandomir has become power hungry, devoured. Rookspire is looking to devour the free cities. There's a large concentration of Nulls, anti-vanishers, whatever you want to call them, that dwell in the free cities.
Hmm.
And
I think that may be something, in your campaign that needs to be brought up a little more often then.
It's not widely known. It's not common knowledge.
Yes. Random guard number 2. I fire that witch bolt at him. It doesn't seem to affect him. What?
Oh, I roll when I set up guards and stuff. I roll to see if any of them have the ability.
All right.
And then if they do, I roll to see if they would suppress it or not. Because if they're found out, especially if they're in Iron Sage, they're going to be taken.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
You know,
so something
so
can be suppressed.
yeah, you can suppress it. Just like a mage can call their magic at will, a vanisher can call their powers at will.
Ooh. Yes, my devious mind is thinking about evil ways to use that ability.
No one's ever played a vanisher.
Huh. That could be kind of fun.
Because everybody that has considered it weighed the fact that, yeah, you can use this.
Yep, that's two questions hit right in the head.
Vanishers. It's not vanishers. It's vanishers with a V. My accent throws it, and it does interfere. It interferes with all magic. They can suppress it. If they suppress it, then they take half healing from spells, and from magic potions. Herbalistic healing potions, which are a thing in Runa's Kesha, will give them full benefit. But the other thing you're looking at is adventurers in D&D parties want kick-ass magic items.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got something like Arabane's Patience, but your greatest defense when you're in combat is activating that. It's just now a great sword. You know.
Yep. For a fighter, okay, sure. I'm down a +2 on damage and to hit. But for someone like Laz or Brika, who would rely on their magic heavily to be effective in combat, that could hurt. Especially if you're actively putting out that field to block the enemy mages. Oh yeah, I'm going to try and cast a healing spell. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so it's balanced. It has its downside.
Oh, that could be kind of fun though. But I'll have to think on that one. All right, anyone else in chat got questions before we go to break?
There's a 20-second delay, so we have to let them have time to type and all that.
Yes, and I will resist the urge to hum a certain theme song while we wait.
I'm going to say we're going to go ahead and go to break because I'm floating. That 32 ounces of water I sucked down before we started. So we're going to take 10 minutes. We're going to get our beverages of choice, our sneaky snacks, and handle our business. We'll be back. And today we're just chatting. So if you got any questions, comments, anything you want to throw out there, get them out there. We love hearing from you guys. So hang out while we take our break, and we'll be back. snickety snacks, our beverages of choice, and I hooked up my third monitor. Yay!
Yay! Now I have monitor envy.
We were talking about Vanishers and their anti-magic ability before we went to break. Does anybody else do you have any questions, comments about them? I'll be more than happy to go into them.
Yeah. Just for chat, we started this conversation as what does a tech level mean for your society? How does it change what your society looks like and what they can and can't do? Versus something that's fantasy punk like Ruth Kesha, or something like the Bronze Age, something like Conan Age of Hyberium. Very different feels to their worlds. So, and then I had a preview of a game that I can't discuss on air because it has a high IP issue. But
we can discuss it. We just can't take credit for it.
Okay. I did a tabletop RPG, a tabletop hybrid of Ark Survival Evolved.
Okay.
Board game. I previewed it this week with some players, and it went off really well. The rule set works fairly slick. I'm surprised, given all that's in there. But it's a very different feel for a world as well, because literally you're starting off with nothing, and it's filled with creatures that want to eat you because you're tasty. But the different feel, the things you experience and have to deal with are very different, and your encounters are different. So that went well. I had to deal with some paper craft issues. No one makes a good dinosaur miniature. So that went well. Shots and Daggers.
Shots and Daggers went really well, I thought. It was Shots and Daggers is a rules light RP driven TTRPG created by our very own Ren Matley.
Mm-hmm.
It is role play driven. There is a combat system and everything. What's unique about it is it's a roll under system.
Ooh.
It's very cool. There's a VOD up. A VOD up for the game that we played Wednesday. Go check it out. The premise is that your characters start out inebriated and go on adventures. It's fun as shit.
Do you agree to take this adventure on what? How much beer is involved? Is there? Of course, there had to be the obligatory, why is the rum gone question, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad that went well.
In this game, it was where is my pants?
Oh, Lolly. So, Tyr, what you're saying is you did well in this game because you normally roll low.
Yeah, except I was rolling high. The dice knew.
Uh-huh. Yep. That's how that works. The dice know. You got turned into a duck.
Not really. I was just drunk enough to believe I was.
So you got better.
I got better.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, seriously, go check it out. It's on the VOD. It'll be up on YouTube soon. Go check it out. And if you're interested in playing in it, send an email to Ren, that's REN at willofthedice.com. She is looking for people to play. Because it's a series of one-shots. It's not like a campaign. It's just a series of one-shots. So send Ren an email. I'll put the email address in chat just to be sure. Go send Ren an email and say you want to play Shots and Daggers.
Yeah, help support that game. Yeah, we support creative endeavors here. Yes, I'd be curious to get her on here Cast Guide at some point to talk about it, but I know they work this time of day.
Yeah, we'll have to. And yeah, she completely created this. It's her creation. It's a blast.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to talk to her about scheduling some PTO to be able to come on.
Mm-hmm. because since I just got done with the design cycle for a game in less than 2 weeks. Yeah, I'd very much like to question, her about some of her design choices. Why did she choose to go under versus over? How did that change what she looks at for a mechanic? So,
What else you guys in chat have? I know you got something. It can be anything. We're just here to chat today. We're just kick back, taking it easy.
Yep. Ooh. Let's see. Speaking of my tabletop game, I said papercraft. I meant papercraft. Literally, I built paper dolls of dinosaurs to move across the board. Nice. So those of you who think you need miniatures to play on a tabletop in real life together, you don't. If you get creative, you can do all sorts of really cool and fun things. Ooh.
Go ahead, Raff.
All right, 2 questions. There was a game I played called RuneQuest, which has a Bronze Age setting tech level, where battles are decided by divine spirit favor rather than arms supply, but they still have a role. How much do deities matter in your world? That's what that comes down to. The Bronze Age part sounds kind of fun. We're just hurling spears and basic bronze weapons. But having divine favor is what drives your success or not.
You should be able to answer that one after Saturday, Raff.
Saturday was the luckiest roll of my life. Yes. But in Rune of the Catch of the Gods, kind of pay attention, but they're not center stage. If the political units, the countries, the factions aren't necessarily built around the favor of one god or another.
Correct. Now, for example, Eastern Teledegarios, they're a bunch of religious fanatics.
Mm-hmm.
Where Western is more open-minded and more educational based. The gods do play a role, but they're not the end-all be-all. That at once upon a time they were, but Runeth Kesha is a living, evolving organism.
Mm-hmm. But that's a very different feel to say a world where the gods are front and center, where the kingdoms front for a god. I am the god of Andy, and Andy says we don't like people who use fire, so their fire is bad, and we're going across the world quenching all fires. And then the other side, you have the fire god. I don't know, Richard. Richard, the fire god, says, no, fire is the greatest thing ever. We should burn the world entirely. Everything needs to be on fire. And then you got the 2 factions fighting.
Pretty much.
But because they spend time worshiping and paying homage to the gods, they get divine power. Your priest class becomes your power base then. Unlike Glandamere, where you have the wizard class is kind of the power base.
So let's expand a little bit on Saturday night.
Uh-oh.
It was just one of those situations where you as a player, did it feel cheap, your escape?
No, I had no idea. That was a, all right, I'm done. My character, for those who are listening, my character, through no fault of his own, ended up in a situation where he was dead. Nope, he was done. There was no way he was logically able to work his way out of that. He was going to be killed by a bunch of dark elves.
Yeah, let Uncle Tyr set the scene. Mm-hmm. They're on a airship called the Drowned Ferret. The Drow have attacked. They have snuck aboard the ship. They have attacked. They have sabotaged the crystals that keep the ship afloat and are working on a experimental spell. Thank you. Working on an experimental spell to teleport objects, large objects. as the ship is going down, Sarek, which is played by Raff, throws Brika, which is our producer Ames's character, a fairy so they can fly. The druid wild shapes into a giant eagle and grabs the rogue. Nobody grabs Sarek and the teleportation goes off. The ship crashes into the Underdark. And there's Sarek surrounded by 30 drow with crossbows, telling them surrender or die. There's no way out of this scenario, but Sarek carries a blade called Arabane's Patience that was forged by the god King Arabane of the Emerald Kingdom before it fell. And he called on the power of Arabane. In my world, I have a thing called a God call. You roll a D100, it's a 95% chance of succeeding, or a 5% chance of succeeding, so you have to roll 95 or above. And then I have to roll to see who answers. We've had situations where other gods have answered and it's not been good. Raff rolls a perfect 100.
Yes. Will the Dice Ambassador dice?
I have to roll a 95 or better for Arabane to show up. I roll a 96, which is unheard of for me because everybody knows that I roll low. And so Arabane came and brought him back to the above world with his party. They did take some shots at him as he was escaping. But again, I roll low. No, I wanted to make sure it didn't feel cheap.
No, because I had two things I was going to do in that moment. And I rolled for which one I was going to try. One was the God call. The other one was going to be Sarek's death. And when he dies, he's breaking that stone. He was going to drop the stone on the ground and break it because he was dying anyway. So might as well make sure the one last task he was going to do happened. That's part of why he broke the stone when he did. He was like, I almost died. I need to break this now before things go to crap again. But yeah, no, it didn't feel cheap whatsoever. I was like, uh-oh, this is bad. But yeah, the 100, I'm like, oh, if for those of you who have never rolled a 100 in a clutch situation, it's better than rolling a crit 20.
And that was the clutch situation because Sarek was dead. There was no coming out of it.
Nope.
The whole encounter was designed on the entire party going with the ship. Hello, Peculiar Patrick. By the way, those of you that hear our theme music, that is written by Peculiar Patrick. He makes music that slaps.
Yep.
If you need music for your game, for your podcast, for your animation, whatever, go hit him up over at Peculiar Patrick on Twitter.
Yes, he does an excellent job.
But yeah, that encounter was designed for everyone to be there. And then have to negotiate whether you're going to try to fight, are you going to surrender, see what happens. You know, it was a crossroads in the story. But everybody but Sarek escaped the ship.
Yep, Sarek went down with the ship. Yeah, but and that kind of leads into another question. As a DM, you know, we handled it how we did, but you have the potential there for a character who was pretty much gonna die.
Yeah.
And not that I would have been okay with Sarek dying because I like Sarek, but that death would have been a meaningful death.
Yeah,
especially being able to break the stone when he did, because okay, cool. That's plot driven. I think, as I said before, I don't like the random D20. Oh crap! I just fucked up a roll. I'm dead. The randomness for my characters, you know, make my death mean something. But you would set that. 30 drow though. That would have been an interesting fight. I'm not sure we could have survived that if we tried to fight our way out of it.
You could have, if you were smart about it. It was based on things that your party has, like looking through your character sheets and formulating battle plans. But at the same time, there were other ways like negotiation or surrender and see what happens. Like it wouldn't have been like you surrender and then they kill you. You surrender, they take you prisoner. You know, so
yeah, and that would have no one wants to be prisoner of the trial. That's not a good time.
I just don't see Sarek being the type to surrender.
No, most of the party would have been in for a fight. But that would have been an interesting scenario in your world. Since we didn't go down that path, we've chosen a different path. It was the fight our way out of the Underdark.
Who knows? Maybe y'all will wind up in the Underdark sooner or later after all.
You keep trying.
I'm not actually trying. You'll know when I'm trying.
But then again, that God call, Sarek teleporting back to the rest of the players who didn't end up in the Underdark, that changed the nature of where your campaign's going and what you had planned for the encounters for that night. Did you plan for us to actually get off the ship?
No, I planned for you all to go to the Underdark. And then it was going to have a great, like, in my head, it was going to be like a 4 or 5 episode thing of y'all trying to stealth through the Underdark and using subterfuge and, you know, trying to find your way topside and being hounded by Drow and the denizens of the Underdark and everything. In my mind, it was going to be this epic, like 5-part mini quest of you all just trying to escape, just something to add flavor.
And we decided to fuck off some other way.
Yeah.
Somehow we'll pay for that.
But in the end, you did what I wanted to happen anyway. You destroyed the stone.
Yeah. But and since it wasn't an after the rolls, the answer was Sarek was going to destroy the stone as soon as he got on land. He just didn't want to destroy the stone in the middle of the sky on an airship when a magic artifact might explode. That sounded like a bad idea. So, yeah, but plot-wise, we've destroyed a major artifact. We've thwarted some plans. You've now said there's an arc 2. We're now into act 2.
Yes.
So you've got 3 acts planned.
Yes. Had 4 that got monkey wrenched. It's okay.
What?
When Winter called on Raza Hazar, and Raza Hazar basically killed Mila, that took out an act. And Patrick, if you're still in the audience, I believe you have, if I am not mistaken, a Ko-Fi. If you will send that to me in a message on Discord, I'll post it because people can't post links in the chat. I want people to hear about you. I want people to visit you. You make amazing music. The latest track that Patrick made will be being unveiled next game.
Ooh.
Oh, it is epic. It is what I've been searching for something to inspire certain scenes, and it is absolutely fucking epic.
Cool. But yeah, getting back to, yes, please support Patrick if you can. It's a wonderful idea. He's an excellent artist. But getting back to, right, we just monkey wrenched your campaign plans because we're horrible players. I guess now you said you plan for various tracks, people making various decision points that changes how things turn. How often do you have to adjust those plans and turns in your campaign now because players are players?
First, I'm going to agree with 2 questions. You're great players. You're not terrible players. Secondly, constantly. I constantly, because the players are constantly doing things that if I wanted to, I could predict 95% of what y'all were going to do.
Mhm.
If I sat down and put my mind to it and created the scenarios, I could put the scenarios in my favor that y'all would react in certain ways. I've done it in certain scenarios in the campaigns. But because I do mostly improv and you guys are always coming up with out of the box ideas, it is excellent. I constantly have to adapt and adjust on the fly.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's that balance of how much pre-thought do you put into your world and into your campaign, and how much do you rely on having to react what the players do.
If we break it out into percentages, it's 5% plotting and planning. I have bullet points of things that can happen or things that will happen regardless of what happens. And then the other 95% is improv.
That makes sense. I think with this last campaign I just finished running and the way I set things up, I did a lot of world building ahead of time so I could handle that moment of improv, that time when we're gonna go fuck off and go this way instead. Okay, well crap, what's over that way? Well, I've already got some of that mapped out so I can at least react on the fly. Yes, for DMs out there, put the time in ahead of time to build your world because characters will go find it. We need to go to this tavern, but there was a cat. Yes, we will chase the cat every time.
Yep.
Well, here's a question. Since we're talking about strange, just moments where you go that totally screwed everything up. What's the biggest moment in all the campaigns you run so far that has totally messed up everything for you?
That's a good one. In all the campaigns I've ran, it was the smallest thing, but was the biggest thing, period. So during the Sword of Hope campaign, the gnome, the Tinker Gnome sorcerer named Flinch got a dire wolf. And Flinch spent all their free time training this dire wolf to do things like sit, lay down, roll over, play dead, and fetch. And I had put together this series of having to find 3 sisters and battle each one, the next more powerful than the other, because they each had 3 items that, when put together, created a magical compass that found the magical city called the Dreams of Atlantis. I planned my entire evening around this combat because I know it's going to be hard pitched combat because they're fighting the final sister. She's super powerful. They're mid-level. They do have some healing. There's going to be lair actions and legendary resistance. We roll initiative. Flinch goes first. Flinch points at the witch's stick, the staff, which is where they get their power from, and says, fetch. We roll. Me and Flinch roll a challenged roll. They rolled a nat 20. I rolled a fucking 1. So, bam. They got the stick. So then they had to see if they could keep the stick. Again, we did contested rolls. Again, a nat 20, and I rolled a 1. Then it comes the rogue's turn, who comes up behind the witch, crits on a sneak attack. Their power's gone, so their hit points go from like 130 to like 20.
Oops.
Drops like 46 points of damage, just takes the head clean off. I called the game. I didn't know what else to do that night. I'm like,
I got nothing after that.
Yeah, that was.
Mm-hmm. Thinking back at all the games I've run, the biggest one that threw the biggest monkey wrench is still used today is these are the Nithrin you were looking for.
Okay, you got to elaborate.
All right, here's how this goes. Picture this is Italy, 1937. I mean, the invading army of the Nithrins was invading the kingdom of Alconin. And one of the border towns had traded sides. Well, our players had their own little army and they were going after this border town. And they dueled with some raiders from the Nithin army on the way in. And like I figured, okay, they're gonna set siege to the town. They're gonna fight it out with the town, the guards, and take out, a big epic siege battle.
Yeah.
Our player said, hey, we got a bunch of that Nithrin equipment, right? Well, yeah. Right. Our advanced scouts, they're gonna put it on and walk up to the gate. I immediately go, uh-oh. And the leader, one of the players, walks up. Greetings, we are the great Nithin army. See the army behind us? Open your gates so we can come in and help secure you. And I have him roll a bluff check, which he blows away. Ta-da! I don't think it was a nat 20, but it's like it rolled, and I rolled low for seeing through it. And they open the gates, and he just goes, yes, we are the Nithrin you're looking for. And he marches the entire army right in, and then they look, hey, wait a second. You're not the Nithrins, and then the fight starts with his army already inside the town.
That's awesome.
I'm like, oh, damn it. But it really kind of changed the nature of that campaign after that.
That is awesome. Okay, 2 questions. I got to address your comment. 2 questions says, I've got a big problem doing yes and. I can't help but think of how the player's thing can go wrong, and I have a bad habit of shutting it down before that gets off the ground. Let them make mistakes. Some of the most epic moments come from mistakes. Players will talk about some of the greatest moments that happened because their plan went totally fucking sideways. Let them do it. It makes for great story. It makes for great moments.
Mm-hmm.
And they may surprise you. You may see all the things that go wrong, but they may go right. So yeah, let them do stupid shit.
Mm-hmm. And as much as we, yes, Pants was robbed. As much as we, as we harp on, play stupid games, get stupid prizes, you don't have to make the stupidity fatal either. If they're doing something, the rule of cool does apply to letting them yes and. Does that sound cool? Okay. It might not succeed, but it might not fail either. Make it interesting, make it fun, give them something for their efforts. They get arrested instead of dying right there on the spot from trying to punch the level 20 mage.
Yeah, and for those that are not familiar, Scions of Oblivion, that was the first campaign that we started putting out in the podcast and the live stream. Very first episode, level 1 or level 3 characters, I can't remember. I believe I started them at level 3. Takes a swing at a level 20 mage. Surrounded by 30 fucking guards. You talk about having to do some mental acrobatics there to keep from it being a TPK.
Mm-hmm. Instead, what happened? Oh, they got arrested.
And then that player almost died because he punched a rat. It was hilarious.
Yes. And it's still a legend now about the player nearly dying to a rat.
No, it was a normal fucking rat. He had 1 hit point left. The rat was on his chest. He punches and rolls a natural 1. I roll on my chart, and the rat bites his hand as he goes to punch at him, dealing 1 point of damage. So he's making death saves in a dungeon because he tried to punch a rat.
Yep. That was amusing. Eventually he was saved. But yeah, like I said, and you're right. Letting them do the yes and is a good way to also give your players agency. They don't feel railroaded at that point because, well, yes, and I'm going to try this. Sure, you could try that. Are you sure? And you smile evilly. Most of the time they'll reconsider, but not always. So, yes, chat, keep coming with questions. We enjoy your questions.
Yeah, your questions, your comments, your experiences.
Mm-hmm.
We have the best audience. We love the interactivity.
Yep. Let's see, Adacia, why fight when you convince them to invite you in? Yes, Adacia was in that campaign where the army got invited inside the walls. She was not the character, but yeah. Allow your players to come with cunning plans to get around the obstacle.
Oh my. Okay.
I love the okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I think the second biggest monkey wrench is Patrick's character bowing a knee to Venfira and proclaiming queen. Because that just skipped the whole story arc of trying to figure out how to take the throne and everything. It was a big monkey wrench.
Well, that's no fun if she's just going to accept it, damn it. Yes. Yes. Adacia's Grendel looking like a tree. Descriptors are fun, for the record. Grendels in my world are giant, raptors on speed, and Grendel Knights ride them. A certain kingdom uses them as mounts. And part of their fight was they were moving through the woods trying to stop this army. And she, went to sneak up on something and she rolled a high stealth check. Okay, a knight on the back of a giant-sized raptor in plate armor sneaking. Yep. And the conversation were like this. Hey, what's that over there? I'm a tree. Why has the tree got blood on it? No reason. Why is the tree talking to us? Rawr, munch. Yep. It just, the scripters are kind of fun sometimes because players do fun things. Let's see. Yeah, in your case, Venfira, for the audience, now the queen of Angramore, did not want the throne. Her character very much was the angry, broody goth child, and was not suitable for it. And no one expected her to go, okay, I'll sit the throne.
So I got to talk about another time where unexpected. This had bad consequences, but we were talking about, what can go wrong. The players are in this cavern. The characters are in this cavern, and there's a tomb. And they push the lid off the tomb, and it breaks. And they hear a noise. The tomb is a shaft that leads downward. They hear a noise. Well, there's a cleric who I won't mention names, the Welsh Turk, starts dropping guiding bolt, just one right after another, down this hole. And then they started hearing a growling noise. And so they continued casting guiding bolt down this hole. Had they bothered to inspect the lead, on the backside it would have said, "Here lies in eternal rest Bataman, the black dragon." He was in his place of slumber. He woke up. He came out. It was hilarious. I loved it.
I'm so why is she dropping guiding bolt randomly down pits? But I've met the Welsh Turk. I know better than ask that question. Yeah.
Oh, I do downtime. Just this campaign hasn't had a lot of opportunity for it. These next episodes, next 2 or 3 episodes, are going to have a lot of downtime. And yeah, you can find trainers, you can practice. Perfect example, in the quarantine game, the Battle of the Demon Bride. The one character every day when they got up would spend an hour working out, doing strength training. And after time, it built up, and I do downtime. It's just that this adventure has been nipping at their heels to the point where they haven't had downtime.
Yeah, yeah. They haven't had time to reflect as characters and figure out what they're doing next. And that is very much a very different feel for a campaign where you have time to sit down and think or plan or what's the next adventure.
Now,
this is sure.
Act 2 for both parties will have a lot more downtime. It'll be completely different. It's not going to be Monster of the Week or Battle of the Week. It's going to be role play heavy. Some political. So it'll be completely different feel than Act 1.
Cool. I kind of look forward to that. That'd be different. That'll be interesting to see some of the characters respond to that because we've only been responding in crisis mode as characters for the most part. Oh, Sir Ustad, what is the advantage of having a spell focus? It's kind of vague in a D&D Beyond.
Do you want to answer it or shall I?
I'll let you answer it.
So, when you're casting spells have components. You will see in the spell, it'll say MSV, material, somatic, and verbal. Material is something like you may need spider webs or the feather of a dove or an ivy leaf. Somatic is the hand movements that you make, and verbal is the words that you say. With a spell focus, you eliminate the need to have material components as long as the spell doesn't require material components to have a cost to them. So, like, for example, Revivify requires a diamond worth 300 gold. So that is a material component that you would have to have. But, for example, Fireball, let me look it up to make sure that I'm right.
Yeah, I think traditionally it was like bat guano or something like that. Or well, like Kieran back in he ate licorice to cast his haste.
Yeah,
as part of the spell component for that.
Had he had a focus, he wouldn't have needed it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the spell focus is for. It's a bat guano and sulfur for Fireball. Yeah. So since it doesn't have a gold or a monetary amount on those two components, your spell focus would take the place of needing those material components.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was forgetting something too. 2 questions. It's hard to keep track with all this stuff.
Across multiple game systems and yes. Well, yeah. For those of us who run across multiple game systems, yes, keeping track of the changes and differences is hard sometimes. We get confused. We make it up as we go a lot. That's why one of the standing rules of my table is when I say goes, and we'll discuss it after the game if it's a major problem, and we'll retcon it if we need to if I made a mistake in my ruling.
Yeah, teleportation circle requires a gem worth 50 gold. Here's the interesting thing about teleportation circle. Anybody can go through the circle once it's opened.
Mm-hmm.
The caster does not specify the targets. That's why, because I received a private message. It was very respectful. When Lazarian and Brika were paralyzed, and the Drow priestess was making a teleportation circle around them, how it would work. And if you read the spell, it says any creature or object that goes through it. So I believe it says any creature. I don't believe it says object.
Yep. While you're looking that up, 2 questions. Remember, one person a long time ago ran a city that barred certain random things like that as they were components for spells like that the ruling power didn't like. That makes for a very fun and flavorful campaign. The Pathfinder campaign, and currently the cities we're in are run by vampires. They don't have holy water in those cities because they've confiscated it all and banned any of the churches to be able to create it. Because, vampires don't like holy water. So it's made for an interesting time of trying to find holy water to deal with vampires. It made for, I don't like fireballs. So we've now eliminated all bats inside our kingdom. We have regular bat hunts to make sure the bats go away.
And these are things that you can use. It's little things that can make a big impact on your world.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have 2 questions on as a guest sometime.
We might have to. So, cool. Let's see what else we got. Creature. Yep.
Lolly did confirm that it's any creature that, is in the portal. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cannot cross planes. Yes. See, and now think about this. You have a portal. Make a permanent teleportation circle between 2 spots. I now have a city tied to another city on the other side of the world through a teleportation circle, and they regularly run trade through it because they've set up these teleportation circles so they can trade back and forth across the world without having to go across the ocean.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing. Like we were talking about tech, the teleportariums.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that was made for. It was made for mass commerce because there was multiple on each continent. Now there's only a couple that remain. And there's only a few people that know how to use them because you have to be able to put in the coordinates of where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Where is it? Teleportarium? We may have seen one of those in one of your one-off one-shots. Interesting.
And interestingly enough, they run off Hytherium.
Ooh.
So these teleportariums that are around, they have a tank, a fuel tank, if you will, that if it goes, that teleportarium shuts down. Go ahead and ask your question, Ustad. We got time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was thinking about that. Yeah. But the only source, in your world, one of the sources of Hytherium was the transmutation box that we got.
Nothing is trivial, Ustad. Your question.
Yep. Go ahead and ask.
The box of transmutation is one source to gather Hytherium. It is a very cruel source because it pulls the magic from casters. Mm-hmm. Hytherium can be mined. There are places where Hytherium can be mined. Hytherium can be created if you know the spell and the ritualistic components for it. There's ways to get it. It's just very few people know. Yes, your ranger can use his bow as a spell focus. Absolutely.
Yep. I want to say D&D Beyond. It's been a while since I've plucked through it. One of the spell focus you can choose is a weapon.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, and that makes for a really flavorful spell focus for a ranger. So, but yeah, because the box of transmutation is currently locked in stone on a ship somewhere we have to find. For DMs out there, leaving artifacts lying around, players leaving artifacts lying around is all sorts of entertainment and fun for your use. So, all right, what do we got?
Exactly. The box will kill a Runethkesha fairy.
Yep. For the uninitiated, the box of transmutation sucks all the magic out of a creature and creates Hytherium, which is liquid magic. We use some of the campaign. Fairies are magic based, not quite. They're manifestation of magic, so the box will kill them. Yes.
Yes.
I was trying to figure out a way to give the box to Lachias to make him catch it in the middle of the fight, but
Interestingly enough, Hytherium, if consumed, will kill most anybody, but it saved Llewellyn Rose.
mm-hmm. Yes. And as for DMs out there, as you make artifacts, what's the cost benefit for using them? Liquid magic can be used for a wonderful amount of components for all sorts of high level spells. However, if you consume it, it sucks.
Yes, Hytherium can be used to replace any material component for any spell. It can also be used to make the spell work at higher levels, even if the spell is not meant to be cast at higher levels. But it's expensive. A vial of Hytherium is like 100,000 gold pieces. It is expensive because it's rare and it's volatile. Once it comes in contact with magic, it could go sideways.
What? A chance to use wild magic charts? No.
No, I would never do such a thing.
Rain of Squirrels. I'm sorry, that was one of your more epic things on your charts over there. Is the Rain of Squirrels.
Thank you.
So, what else we got, chat? Yeah, we got the 20-second delay, unfortunately.
Yeah. While we're waiting to see if chat comes with anything, I want to give a shout out to Locke. They're down in Mississippi.
Yep, Mississippi.
At Gulf Wars and SCA event. I hope they're having a blast. But we do miss them here.
And we definitely look forward to their return.
Also, if you guys think of questions during the week and you're like, hey, I want these guys to answer this question, send us an email, questions@willofthedice.com. And we'll address it on air. That's why we have that.
Yep.
Because we love being interactive with y'all. Y'all are the best audience ever.
Mm-hmm. And yes, Ustad, no question. Well, most questions are not too stupid.
Or trivial.
That's, we're here to answer them. Now, some of the answers you may get may not be the greatest answers, but you'll get an answer.
Yeah, we don't get to interact a lot when we're gaming. I keep an eye on chat to make sure that there's no disruptions. Lolly is really quick on the draw for the band hammer when people come in causing chaos. But I don't get to really interact with y'all because I'm focused on the story. And a lot of the players don't get to really interact with y'all because they're focused on the story. So being able to interact with y'all during cast guidance is awesome.
Yes. And yeah, and that's a thing for the streaming technology specifically, because we're focused as characters, as DMs playing here, and trying to interact with chat along the same, it just does not work very well. So.
All right. So it doesn't look like there's anything else in the audience. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to say thank you first off for joining us today. This is one of our random days because it's been a hell of a week and neither one of us have had time to plan for anything. We want to remind you that if you want to support us, the biggest thing you can do is tell your friends, share us with people, get other people to come and hang out. The more people that watch, the better. And we just going to take a moment to remind you who we are, where we can be found, and we're going to get the hell out of here.
Cool. Greetings, gamers. I'm Raff the Mad One, your co-host for this wandering discussion. And I can be found at BLCrew 13,000 at Dice Deck Camp on Mastodon.
And I'm Tyr the DM. I am the world's okayest DM. And you can find me on Twitter at Tyr_the_DM. Just a reminder that you're not alone. Things may get difficult. Times may get hard. You may be facing financial situations. You may be facing mental health situations. And they suck. Life can beat you down, but you are not alone. Remember, love and inclusion. These are the torches that light a path to a better tomorrow. Come join us and be torchbearers. And until next time, if someone doesn't know, don't cast aspersions, cast guidance. Love you guys.